I'm here tonight with Dave Bassett, former Wimbledon, Nottingham Forest, and also Sheffield United and Leicester City as well.
That's correct.
So Dave, I still can't believe I'm sitting here saying you was the last manager to bring any silverware to Forest, and you was the first manager to bring any silverware since Brian Clough left the club. So, how do you feel having that achievement on your CV?
Well, it's nice to have it because I came to Forest to get them promoted out the Championship into the Premier League, which we did, and it was a fantastic season. So I'm, proud of the fact. It's disappointing that, again, the Forest have not gone back into the Premier League since that time, which is 20 years, which is amazing, really. It just goes to show how clubs can find it difficult. It's not easy to get promotion, and it's even harder to stay there. So you can understand how clubs battle to stay in the Premier League as long as possible. So I didn't realise that I was the only one to win actual silverware along with Brian Clough. I'm pleased. I would have liked my Forest career to have lasted a lot longer, but unfortunately the wheels come off in the second season. There was a change in running the club, the whole aspect of it, and it resulted with Pierre Van Hooydonk going on strike, Kevin Campbell being sold, Colin Cooper being sold, and so it was a very difficult season, and eventually I suffered for the team not doing well enough with the sack.
Yeah. Well, we'll wind back a little bit. We'll talk about your playing career, because obviously everyone knows you as a football manager, but in your playing career you did play a lot at semi-professional level in the 1960s and early 70s, and what was the semi-professional level like at that time, especially during the time when England won the World Cup in 1966?
Well, going back, actually, I was at Chelsea when I left school. I wasn't an apprentice. I was a ground staff boy, but unfortunately I didn't get taken on, and I then went into what they call amateur non-league, and I played for Hayes FC at that particular time. And I was at Hayes FC. I actually had even a 6-month spell at Wycombe Wanderers when I was about 18 at that time, but went with Hayes, and whilst I was at Hayes I had the opportunity to turn professional with Watford, but the wages are nothing like they were now, or they are now, and Watford were in the 3rd Division South at that particular time, and I was playing non-league for Hayes, and I had a job, and I felt that was more secure than the job of being a professional footballer, because I did appreciate that I didn't think I was going to be a good enough footballer to play at the top level, and so my career could have been over very quickly as such. So I was at Hayes, and then I broke my leg, and I missed playing in the Amateur Cup final for Hendon in the Amateur Cup final against Wilstone, but I recovered from that. I then started playing for Hayes again, and then a guy, Alan Bassett, came for me. He was manager of Walton and Hersham, who were a good non-league amateur side, and I joined them and did well. I became captain, and I played for England amateurs on 10 occasions, which was good. Whilst at Walton and Hersham, we were very successful. We actually went to Wembley and won the Amateur Cup at Wembley, beating Slough 1-0, which was a great day because I was captain as such. And then, with amateur days got finished, then it became professional or semi-professional, and Alan Batsford, our manager, then went to Wimbledon, and he took me to Wimbledon, who were then in the Southern League at that particular time, and we had 3 fantastic seasons where we won the league. We had FA Cup runs, beating Burnley, we drew with Leeds away, Don Revis, great Leeds side, and lost the replay, and then we lost after a replay to Middlesbrough with Jack Charlton, Souness, etc. And Wimbledon got in the league then, and I played the first year in the league, which was difficult because we were an ageing team and we were part-time as well. We found ourselves down the bottom of the league, and at that time Ron Nodes, our chairman, had an argument with Alan Batsford, and Alan resigned. He shouldn't have done, and Dario Gradi was at the club to develop the youth at Wimbledon. That was the structure of the club which Ron wanted, and he decided to appoint Dario as a manager, and I got offered the assistant's job, so that was great. I worked 3 years with Dario, which was terrific. He's a very good coach. I learned a lot from him, totally different character.
Because later on he developed some outstanding players like David Platt, Neil Lennon, who were regulars at the top level. And also, more recently, Forest fans will probably know more of David Vaughan during his time at Crewe Alexander.
I mean, he signed Jeff Thomas. He didn't come through the youth team. Robbie Savage, he got from Manchester United. David Platt. I mean, Dario did a very successful job at Crewe. An unbelievable period producing and also increased Crewe's profile. They got promotion. They were actually in the Championship the year we got promoted to the Premier League. But things fell away. Crewe were always going to find it difficult because they the wages, etc. But no, I've got a lot of time for Dario Gradi. You know, he's a very, very good coach. He's creative. He's an educator in terms of that. He believes in the youngsters learning the game, and he was very good. As I say, the 3 years I worked with him at Wimbledon, it was an enormous help to me.
Yeah. So, what did you learn from the youth system, or any tactical?
Well, I learned tactical stuff as well. I'm not saying I agree with Dario on a lot of everything, but I learned about training, what training was he did, for what particular reasons, you know, how preparing for games, you know, an overall scouting, what was doing, recruitment, and what we were looking for from youngsters who were going to be at school training in the youth, because I was in between the first team and the schoolboys with the apprentices and things like that.
Yeah.
So it was important that we had a plan and what we was doing. And of course, I was involved in going with him on some of the first team games where I was listening to him talk, etc. So I got a good spectrum of covering about football, and in terms of that, which held me in good stead.
When you took on the Wimbledon job, you started off in the 4th division, and you took them all the way up to the 1st division. And part of that journey, you did suffer relegation from the 3rd division to the 4th. Was there any sign of you ever going to get sacked? To like a lot of managers these days, 9 out of 10, when they suffer relegation, they are most likely to get sacked. So
no, it wasn't, because Sam Aman had taken over from Ron Rhodes. Ron Rhodes had gone to Crystal Palace. Sam had taken over, and I took over in January 81. And Wimbledon were 13th in the 4th division at that time, and we finished 3rd and got promoted. And we had a situation where Sam felt a bit uncomfortable, and we sold a few players. Stevie Galliot, Steve Parsons, Tommy Cunningham all went, and then we had horrendous injuries to people like Alan Cork, Mickey Smith, Steve Jones, Johnny Leslie, which really meant we were struggling. We were down the bottom of the league. We did recover in the second half of the season and lost to Walsall and goal difference to get relegated. But the following season we were ready to move on, because a lot of the players like Glyn Hodges, Wally Downs, Mark Morris, Kevin Gage, were all in the youth team. They were beginning to develop into better players and stronger players, and so we were following the strategy of the club, was to produce our own athletic young players that fell within the wage frame which we'd done. So luckily we won the 4th division attempt, which was great, because it put us back in the 3rd division. So I got promoted, relegated, promoted, and then there was one season in the championship, or 1st division as it was then, where we finished mid-table and had a good cup run. The following year we got promoted to the top league, and found ourselves in the Premier League. Well, it wasn't the Premier League, it was the 1st division with the top teams, and again we had a fabulous season. We finished 6th and got to the quarter-finals of the FA Cup. But my relationship with Sam Aman had sort of deteriorated, and it was time to move on. I went to Watford, which was a mistake. I shouldn't have gone to Watford. I didn't do any due diligence, but
you had big boots to fill as well.
Luckily for me, it worked out okay, because all of a sudden the Sheffield United job became available, and I got that job, and I had 8 great years at Sheffield United. Well, nearly 8 years. The first bit wasn't so good, in the last bit, but in between the 6 years, the club got relegated. I took over at Christmas, it got relegated, but the following season we came second to Leeds. We got promoted out of the 3rd division, second to Wolves, Graham Turner. The following year we came second to Leeds and got in the top division, and then we had 4 seasons in the Premier League before the ownership of the club changed, and then that was the beginning of the end for me.
So I'm going to talk about players at Wimbledon. You developed some outstanding characters in the game, like Vinnie Jones, John Fashanu, Dave Bassett, who's well known to these neck of the woods, Dennis Wise and Laurie Sanchez, and all them players did feature in the FA Cup final, that famous FA Cup final against Liverpool, which he wasn't the manager at the time. Did you feel that you totally missed out?
I was envious of Bobby Gould. I wasn't jealous. I was envious. I'd have liked to have been there. And Bobby was very magnanimous in that he said, "This is Harry's team." There'd been 1 or 2 changes, as you say. Excuse me, to that team. I was there, and I was willing them to win, and I was absolutely thrilled and delighted for them that they won there, because, as you say, Dave Bassett was, excuse me, there. Brian Gale, Andy Thorne, Laurie Sanchez. legends, Dennis Wise, Vinnie Jones, Alan Cork, the main structure of the side. So it was a fantastic day. I'd have loved to have been part of it, but that was the way life was.
Going to Sheffield United, you took him on the same sort of journey from the third division up to the Premier League and brought stability up to the Premier League. One particular signing who did make a massive difference for you was Brian Deane. And Brian Deane, if people look back on their history, was actually the first player to score a Premier League goal. What was he like as a player? And
Brian turned out to be a lot better than I thought he would be.
Yeah.
Joe Kinnear had tipped me off that he thought he had the potential to be a decent player. I'd only seen him play once, and I took a chance. He was very athletic. He showed some good skills, and he looked like he could finish on one or two things. So we took a chance. We paid £30,000, and he turned out to be a fantastic investment. He was our leading goal scorer for 5 years, and we sold him for £2.9 million. So it was great business. But I've got to say, Tony Agana, who he linked up with, who I had at Watford, really helped Brian produce as a person. Yeah. And those two, for 2 seasons, did absolutely fantastic for us. And Brian carried on, whereas Tony didn't quite as much.
Yeah.
But he's a hero at Sheffield United for the right reasons. And the board decided to sell him against my wishes. He had a year to go to Leeds, and that was the year we got relegated, and we drew 17 games that season. And if Brian Deane had been with us, we'd have won 2 or 3 of those games, and the club wouldn't have got relegated, and it might have helped them financially. But these decisions sometimes get taken out of your hands.
Exactly. And also during that time at Sheffield United, you was actually in the opposition dugout in Brian Clough's last ever game in 92-93 season. And obviously you took your team there to win, of course, like any other manager would. Did you find it a bittersweet moment that it was the great man's last game?
Well, it was his last game at the City Ground, because they went to Ipswich the following week. Yeah, obviously Brian Clough's record goes before it. He'd done fantastic. It's a shame it ended up with relegation, but what he'd have done, I think, the Forest fans can forgive him for that.
Of course.
In terms of what it was. They were struggling, and, I was elated with one because we'd kept ourselves in the Premier League as well, or the top division.
Yeah.
We're competitive, and we all accept we have done. I remember when I got relegated the last day with the last kick of the game at Chelsea when I was at Sheffield United.
Yeah.
We all get our great days of where we suffer, great enjoyment, like when Sheffield United won at Leicester to get promoted. Then the other side of the coin, the devastation of getting relegated and being out the league more or less with the last kick of the season.
Yeah. Well, fast forward a little bit. Obviously, you went to Palace and put them on the brink of promotion, and then you came to Forest Irvin Collar actually asked you to come along and help Stuart Pearce out, who wasn't willing to give up playing because he was still 35 years old.
He's a bit younger.
And he just took on the role so quickly because Frank Clark resigned unexpectedly.
Yeah.
So was it a joint management, or would you say you was?
No. So I was caretaker. Stuart had the final say. I was director of football.
Yeah.
We confided in one another. I helped him out when he wanted to. He got on with it. I didn't interfere with what he wanted.
Yeah.
Because I was technical director at that time, or director of football, whatever it was.
Yeah.
I was bought mainly probably for the next season, where it was anticipated that Stuart would go on playing.
Yeah.
No, I was there, and Stuart, he got on with it. It was his say. He picked the team, and I made any comments that he wanted. So no problems.
And what was the atmosphere like when Stuart Pearce left the club? Because obviously we suffered relegation, and we suffered it in the past when Brian Clough took us down, and Frank Clark managed to keep Stuart Pearce. So how hard was it at that time when Stuart did leave Forest? Because obviously,
I think we all knew he was going. I was pretty confident. We didn't talk about it intimately, but I was pretty sure that there was teams like Newcastle that would want Stuart Pearce.
Yeah.
And as a player, you've got to carry on playing as long as you can.
Yeah.
Because Forest didn't want a manager, the player manager. They wanted a proper manager. So, it was an end of an era. Pearcey was loved by the Forest fans, and it was time to move on. Nobody regretted it. He didn't want to be playing in the Championship or the First Division when he could have been playing in the Premier League.
Of course, yeah, because it was after that Euro '96 moment when he did his heroics against Spain. He obviously was trying to get to a World Cup place in '98 as well.
Well, of course he was. That's right.
So,
you can understand. He wanted to be in the England team, and if you're in the Premier League, you've got a better chance than you are in the First Division.
Summer's '97. You managed to bring some of your own players in. You brought players like Alan Rodgers, who was a great buy from Tranmere Rovers, and Jeff Thomas, who had a lot of experience at that level, and Andy Johnson, and Marco Pascalo, who probably turned out as a disappointment, but he was an international goalkeeper for Switzerland at the time. And one unexpected signing was John Olafielda, who provided good cover for...
John was a very good player. He could have been better. His personality is very good, but in terms of it's football, he's very quiet. But we had 2 good centre halves in Chettle and Cooper at that particular time. We had a good squad, with the players that are already here, as you say. We brought them here. Andy Johnson, we knew about him, had good legs. Jeff Thomas, I knew experience, could score goals. Alan Rogers, I'd been recommended by Stevie Coppell about him. They did, and luckily the team blended and played some terrific football.
And you had an absolutely outstanding season, and you had an outstanding striking partnership of Campbell and Van Hooijdonk, who scored more than 50 goals in between. 53, which was probably the best in Europe at the time, and not just in the country, but partnership-wise.
It was good. I can't tell you whether it was the best in that, but they scored between them the 53 goals. They assisted one another. They moulded together, and they did a terrific job for us. But again, one's going to say the whole team contributed in there. We showed good defensive qualities at times, and we showed some very creative ability to create goals with Stoney, Ian Wone, Chris Bart Williams, Andy Johnson, Scott Gemmell, Jeff Thomas. We had a nice little combination in midfield.
After that, it was a great season, and I remember it well because it's one of my highlights of 98 was, and as well as me little brother being born as well. So it was a very special year for me, 1998, and in summer '98. Some backhander just happened with Kevin Campbell. You went in and got him a new contract signed, and then on the Monday, it was on the Wednesday.
I agreed terms with him and Scott Gemmell. They had agreed terms, and they were due to go in Monday to sign the contracts. They weren't quite ready. They went on Tuesday, they weren't quite ready, and I think even the Wednesday they weren't. And then all of a sudden, Kevin Campbell, agent, was approached by another agent from Turkey saying, we want to take Kevin Campbell. And they had to pay for him, but I didn't want to sell him. But Kevin then found out that he could earn the same money tax-free in Turkey that we were offering. So it was a no-brainer in terms that he could earn, it was 40% more than he would have done staying here.
And what rubbed salt on the road as well, like 6 months later he went back to Everton and scored a hatful of goals for him.
That's right,
And then obviously Pierre Van Hooijdonk went on strike. Obviously his form said it all. He was a great free kick taker and a good finisher, and obviously had this a lot of arrogance about him that he thought he was better than he was. But when he went on strike, did it surprise you how he did it?
Well, because you don't go on strike, that's unacceptable to me. You go on strike, you come back and sort it out. But Ronald de Boer and his brother, the other de Boer, had gone on strike at Barcelona, so it seemed to be the thing. The Dutch can be this sort of strange characters that they are as well, and I just sort of disrespected Pierre. He wasn't a team player. He was a selfish individual. He was only considered himself. And for me, he ruined the season. All the hard work that had been done the previous season, he destroyed. And really, I hold him responsible for the demise of the club, getting relegated that season.
And Irvin Scholar, did he back you after that? Did he say you could get this player for this million or that?
No. We sold Colin Cooper as well. So the club needed some money. There was some money made available. I basically swapped Ian Moore for Dougie Freedman. The fees were the same, and I brought Neil Shipley in. That was about all. Unfortunately for Neil, we'd done great for me at Palace, but he didn't do it for us. And then I brought him to Barnsley, and he did a fantastic job at Barnsley for me. So it was one of those. So had we known that Campbell was going right at the end of the season, we could have been looking around for other people. But I wasn't anticipating. In terms, I regret now looking back. I should have resigned once they sold Campbell behind the back. I should have said no. I'm calling it a day.
And it was obviously on out to dry. And after the Portsmouth game in the FA Cup tie, you were sacked. How did it come about? And
the writing was on the wall. The atmosphere in December, and with Pierre coming back again, I regret putting him in the team. I should have said no. I'm not playing. I don't care what the board say. I am not playing him. And if they had sacked me, well then fair enough. But it was coming, and so it wasn't a surprise. I just knew, and I heard vibes going around etc. So,
Ladies and gentlemen,
Okay, well, we're just
we're going to do the raffle now.
we're just going to be doing the raffle now. So, so thanks again, Dave, for a wonderful time to have an interview and very pleasure meeting you.
yeah, cheers, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Wish you well.
So everyone, please subscribe on my YouTube page, and also please have a chance to have a look on our Facebook page as well. So we'll see you all very soon. Thank you.